my understanding, which is based on very solid scientific and metaphysical kind of principles. Pardon the music, it's my jazz hour. And yeah, it came to me, so I'll just leave it. Might turn it down a little bit. But anyway, so what I was trying to say is this. So in terms of co-creation, right, we know at this point that reality is a structured system, yeah? It's just lines of code which is being rendered to us. But at the same time, it's also an interactive projection / reflection. Yeah, very complicated, complex system. It's not easy to wrap your head around because it's not actually a human concept. So in that understanding, you realize that discovery and creation are not mutually exclusive. They're two sides of the same coin, right? Because consciousness as the architect is also the observer. Like I told you with example, with the Inception movie, you know, there was the girl that was the architect, but at the same time, you know, it's a part of you. So there's a part of you that's building the whole illusion. Yeah. It doesn't build it around you. It reflects it back to you. But at the same time, you are also the very thing that is seeing what's built. And it's an inseparable process. This is kind of like drilling down into the very nuts and bolts of where the physical meets the spiritual. This is deep shit, bro. Because discovering the image has just been created by your own self. By the same time, you're the one that's observing it. It's simultaneous. It's happening at the same time. Creation and discovery. Okay. This ties in with what I said about the science, you know, discovery stuff. We'll get to that. You see. So in that understanding, you realize that, okay, reality is a pre-existent system. It's just codes, right? That we are interacting with. Yeah. The mirror, if you like. But it also requires an observer to collapse probability into forms. Because if there is no observer, there's just code. But if there is no observer, is there actually any code? Do you see? This is the ultimate paradox. Because if there is nobody to actually look in the mirror, is the mirror even, what's on the mirror? It can't ever be known. Yeah, it can't ever be known. It's like an paradoxical beyond measure. And also, quantum mechanics actually hints at this. It hints at, one second, let me turn this down. I feel like it's super loud. Where's my, you know, quantum mechanics also hints at this very principle. So it's like consciousness doesn't just uncover the laws, right? It actually also influences how they manifest, you know, at certain levels of awareness. So there's the code, and then there's the reflection or the projection. Yeah. You need to be able to observe it to collapse it into form. But that is also tied to your level of awareness. Do you see? So 3 principles here. Okay, cool. So naturally, the question then becomes, what's the role of perception in what is discovered? Yeah. And whoever asked that question, that's a great question. You know, so to answer that, scientists don't just find new things, right? Like I said, if you focus on anything deep enough or zoom in deep enough, you realize that's a whole universe. So they're not finding new things. They focus attention on something, and in doing so, they bring it into their perceived reality. Yeah, they collapse the code. Yeah, the matrix, the quantum field into form, because that's what the quantum field is: infinite potential. Because you are infinite potential. Yeah, so the quantum field actually being in existence is a direct reflection of what we are. Yeah, we're not going to look in the mirror and see a fucking dog, are we? If we're interacting with the quantum field, that means that okay. So scientists, like I said, they focus attention on something, and in doing so, they bring it into their perceived reality. So, for example, subatomic particles behave differently when they are observed, yeah? Suggesting that the act of looking shapes what is seen. This applies to the particle wave duality. Oh, another motherfucking ad. Give me 1 second. Yeah, it's probably one of the fucking, I made $100 million on Amazon. Come and give me your money. Let me teach you how to make it. Anyway, so where was I? So subatomic particles behave differently when observed. Yeah. Suggesting that looking at the very act of looking shapes what's seen. Yeah. Particle wave duality. You know, I'm talking to intellectuals here. You know what I'm talking about. So I'm not going to go over it. Now, this means that while natural laws exist, their form, listen to what I'm saying, this is very important. Their form and accessibility fully depends on the observer's level of awareness. What does that mean? That means that we have a mirror, we have an observer, yeah? The person that constructed when I say person, you know what I mean, it's consciousness. But consciousness brings the mirror into being. But at the same time, consciousness is reflected on the mirror. And the very act of observing the mirror collapses the code in the mirror into form, but then the form that's seen or observed is directly linked to the observer's level of awareness. Okay? So, based on your level of awareness, that kind of fully dictates what you'll be able to collapse in the quantum field into form. This is why I keep telling you, like, if we ascend the animalistic state into higher realms of awareness, we will create some super fucking amazing astronomical out of this world type shit. Yeah. And when you look at like history or previous civilizations, whether it's true or not, it's still valid. It's still a credible position because we still don't understand it today. Yeah. And we know that those stories or myths is because they had a high level of awareness. So they were able to create things that we still can't create, right? You go to Mesoamerica, there are things that they did that we can't do. Yeah. Methods of cutting blocks, moving blocks. Look at Machu Picchu, bro. We can't ever understand it, bro. And some of the techniques, some of the techniques and things they did, ancient Egypt, ancient China, all over the gaff, bro. Sudan, even some of the cathedrals and stuff in Europe, and we just have no idea how they pulled it off. It's directly linked to our levels of awareness, okay? So that then goes into the next point. So how can we tune reality, and how can we use thought forms or thought formation to our advantage? So at an individual level, right, a person's mental models shape their experiences. This is important, yeah, because belief affects perception. We know this, yeah? So if you believe that there's a fucking boogeyman, yeah? You go in the woods, you see a shadow, you will see the boogeyman, even though there is no boogeyman. That was just a shadow cast because light hit a tree. But your perception, your belief affected your perception because you believe in the existence of said thing. That's why I keep telling you need to do away with fear, because fear, when you believe in fear, it affects your perception heavily. It literally drags you down by so many notches in terms of frequency. Okay? Also, at a collective level, mass consciousness, can actually affect certain structures or discoveries. Right, so I had to do something. So where was I? I think I was talking about thought forms and tuning reality, right? So just to recap, a person's mental models shape their experiences, i.e., beliefs affect perception. The very perception, i.e., what you see, affects the thought forms that you can actually pull out of the quantum field, or i.e. so if you visualize a blank, not a blank, but like a mirror that is covered in matrix code, right? at an individual level, a person's mental models, yeah, the things, sort of like their preconceived ideas or perceptions, what they believe and all the rest of it, yeah, is what will shape is what will shape the reflection they see, basically, yeah. So a person with a higher level of awareness and understanding, yeah, with more kind of like advanced mental models will look at the same reflection and draw out more. But a person with a lower state of awareness will look at the same mirror that has this infinite quantum field reflected back and will just draw out something pretty shit. Okay? Just like how, like, let's use this example. So a human will look at their reflection and they will see the beauty of the world in the background and all the rest of it, blah, blah. I'm just generalizing here. But a dog will look at that and they will find conflict. Yeah, they'll think another dog is trying to take their food or whatever it is. Yeah. So mental models shape experiences because belief affects perception. Perception affects, what we collapse in the quantum field. Yeah. Okay. So at a collective level, mass consciousness, yeah, or the collective consciousness the mass manifests or creates certain structures or discoveries, right? Based on the collective level of awareness. Because although, yes, there's no separation, because we're all different perspectives of the one thing, yeah? We can speak of the collective mind or the shared mind, the akashic, whatever you want to call it, yeah? It exists. Now, if collectively we have a higher level of awareness, then naturally, because what we believe is, and our thought models are in line with higher levels of awareness, it will affect the collective perception, which will mean that because we're natural creators and we're constantly creating, we will manifest certain structures that are in alignment with where we are in terms of awareness, okay? So if you look at the modern world and you look at the fact that there are hospitals and surgeons and structures that will fund, children going to have like sex change operations, whereas, but we can't get the very same funding for kids to learn advanced mathematics or advanced sciences or whatever it is. It's not on the 3D level. You will never be able to reconcile that because you'd be like, oh, why are they funding this and da 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 da. But it's because collectively, the mass of people, the collective mass is in a very low state of awareness. So therefore, they're manifesting structures that are in alignment with that low state of awareness. Yeah. A high state of awareness, which has like affected the mass, will create systems and structures that will manifest things that are in alignment with that level. Your scholarships and this and that and this and that, and institutions that do these things rather than institutions that fund children to go and chop off their penises and stuff, right? Or chop off their breasts and, confuse them even more, right? It's just the natural way it goes. Because why? Because consciousness is a creative energy. We are creators naturally. That's our default position. Okay. So when you think about it from that level, you start to see, oh, right, so it's a shared kind of mind, right? It's a shared collective mind. And although you have your individual microcosm, like I keep telling you, there's no separation and we're sharing one mind because we are in that one mind right now. Whatever you think is physicality, it's what the inside of that mind looks like. Yeah. Now, think about this. I can't remember which science journal I read this in, but it was a while back. And they did this experiment where they put some mice in a maze to try and find food. It was quite a complicated maze, but after a period of time, they figured out the shortcuts and stuff, right? And they had another group of mice somewhere else. I can't remember. It might have been even across continents or whatever. And the new group of mice solved the maze quicker. Right? And the scientists were like, oh, it's almost like when this first group unlocked that level of awareness, right? and they were able to collapse their sort of like mice quantum field to get to the solution quicker. It affected all the mice, right? Humans are no different. Okay, so from the perspective of the mice, right, that level of consciousness is focused on what? Survival, yeah? Self-preservation, right? So when they look in the quantum field, i.e. when consciousness is staring in that mirror, which is layered with matrix code, reflecting the quantum field that the conscious being itself is, when it looks at that reflection, it, based on their level of awareness, they collapse the code into a physical thought form, which is solving that equation, yeah, which is related to food, yeah, because that's all they care about. And it bled through the wider collective. So then, in the collective sense, they manifested that outcome even without trying. Do you see how we are just creators? Just this experiment alone answers the question, bro, of what we are. But people argue. I mean, if you want me to go one step further, we can look at another example, which was the invention of the telephone by Bell. Yeah. Bell and Gray basically figured out the telephone. They didn't invent it. They were able to extract that or collapse the quantum field code to extract that thought form called the telephone at the same time or around the same time. The same can be said of calculus by Leibniz and Isaac Newton. Do you see? So based on basically we can also look at it this way. I know when I speak, I just thought I'd do a quick visual to help, right? So this is you, consciousness in flesh. You are experiencing your reality, which is merely a mirror, yeah? And everything you see is just basically lines of code, infinite potential. This is the quantum field. But the quantum field is nowhere to be found because it's you, okay? You're reflecting onto the mirror. So this code, like I said, is the quantum field is infinite potential. It's the mirror of reality, but the mirror is you, okay? Because without you, there's no lines of code, yeah? The paradox I mentioned in the video. Now, when I mentioned that the section on beliefs shaping perceptions and your level of awareness dictating what you pull out of here, this is what I mean, yeah? Your beliefs, yeah, basically the thing you stand on to create, yeah, can be shaped, yeah, it can be influenced. We'll talk about that another day, but it can be shaped and it can be influenced, yeah. This is what your programming is for. This is what the Saturnian matrix does, yeah. But basically, your beliefs shape your perception. Your beliefs shape what you see and how you see it, yeah. So if we go back to the particle wave duality, the observer effect, based on what you believe, it will shape what you see, and it will affect, subatomic particles, etc. It affects reality, yeah. Now, yeah, it dictates what you collapse in the field. So yeah, so basically what you believe, it dictates what you collapse in this field, yeah. Your perception and level of awareness, which are all shaped by your beliefs, dictate what you collapse in this field into form, yeah. When I say collapse in the field, basically means what you're going to create out of you into your experience, because you are this. So what are you going to create out of yourself in order for you to experience, yeah? Now, when you think about it, let's say your beliefs and perception, your level of awareness, yeah, based on your beliefs and your perception, you only see this much of the quantum field because you're operating from fear, right? So basically, this is your level of awareness, right? So this is where you're at. So you're only going to see this much, yeah, of the quantum field anyway. And it will also influence what you see, because this element here, fear, affects you, and it affects what you create out of here. So if you're in a low vibrational state, it affects your perception, affects how you see the world. Yeah. And because this is your level of awareness, yeah, which is based on your beliefs, it affects what you draw out of this mirror into reality. Yeah, it affects what you discover because of this perception and your beliefs, okay? Now, let's say you are at a higher state of awareness, yeah? Let's say you're operating from abundance. That means you're seeing more of the mirror, yeah? You're seeing more. Not only are you seeing more, you're also, because you're here, abundance affects you, affects your perception, and affects what you draw out of here. Because this chap here, operating from fear, because he's chained by lack and doubt and indecision and all the rest of it, everything he sees here has to reinforce this level of awareness, which is shaping his perception because it's something he believes. But yeah, this chap who's operating from abundance, that's his level of awareness. That means his perception is shaped by abundance, yeah? So rather than seeing limits, he only sees abundance and opportunity, right? So whatever he collapses here will align with abundance because that's his level of perception. It's what he literally believes. Okay? This is how co-creation works. You get it? Now, to carry on and expand a bit further on the example with the mice, right? And how we, based on our level of awareness, we literally draw the same things out of the quantum field, yeah? So the example of the mice, the mouse experiment, all mice are operating a level of awareness which is tied to fear and survival. This is a fact, yeah? Otherwise they wouldn't run away and scurry and live the lives that they live. So it took this, even though it was a complicated maze, this mouse solved it in super quick time, right? And once, after the challenges initially, it didn't solve it super quick time. They had to go through it all and then they figured it out. Then they worked out a shortcut. They literally could go here and do it, right? Now, this information somehow appeared within other mice, for argument's sake, let's say 10,000 miles away, right? How did that happen? Was that information transmitted somehow to them? Do they have a shared mind somehow, like some magic connection? No, because what's actually happened is this. If you are operating from a level of awareness which is tied to fear, yeah, you're only seeing this part of the grid and you're only going to draw out things out of this part based on your level of awareness and your perception and what you believe about reality, right? Now, because all the mice share the same level of awareness, that means they are all sharing the same level of perception and their beliefs are the same about food and survival. So therefore, that information will almost appear to be transmitted across to this mouse here, but it wasn't, because now that this one has figured out how to do it, that information is stored in the collective mind. So now this one doesn't have to go through the initial stages of working it out. Once he looks at the grid, he will literally see the shortcut because they're all on the same frequency. They're all at the same level of awareness, same level of perception and beliefs. Yeah, this is how Tesla and Leibniz were able to pull out calculus from here, because Tesla and Leibniz were both looking at it from this perspective. Yeah, let's say abundance, yeah, or inquiry or whatever, yeah, but you're looking at it from a higher level. They're trying to find the hidden patterns in reality. So Leibniz is looking, Newton is also looking, right? Not Tesla, sorry if I said Tesla, it's early. So Leibniz and Newton are both looking at this at the same time, but from the same level of awareness, right? So once this one figures it out, it's almost as if it's transmitted to the other, and Leibniz also figures it out. It's not that they are sharing. Yes, we are one collective mind, but they are all on the same frequency, right? It's like they're both tuned into the same radio station at the same time, because they're all on 102.5 at the same time. And 102.5 can be explained as their level of awareness, their perception, and beliefs. They're both believing that if they keep looking at this equation, there is an underlying thing, yeah, and they're both looking at it. So based on that, this thing draws, they're able to draw out, if not draw out, but this collapses. It collapses into form. So this would have collapsed into calculus for them at the same time. I hope it's clear, because they're literally both looking at the same, at the reality screen. So they're both looking here with the same eyes, if you like, with the same perception, the same level of awareness, and the same beliefs. So the particle wave duality, this collapses into calculus for them at the same time. It can't collapse for him and not collapse for the other, because they're both on the radio station. That's how one person can tune into 105.2, you know, south of the town, another person can tune into 105.2, 102.5 north of the town. They're both receiving the same station at the same time. There is no delay. They've both collapsed static into form. I hope it's clear. Yeah. Oh, and lastly, once we increase our level of awareness, right, which means that we're going up this scale from fear to higher levels of awareness, we can look at the same things we looked at from the lower level of awareness, and we will collapse this differently than we did when we were operating from here, because fear affected our perception and it was based on different beliefs. Yeah, now that the beliefs have changed, our perception has changed and our level of awareness has changed. So therefore, when we look at the same area that he's looking at, or he looked at, and he was able to collapse into something, we can look at that very same area, but we'll collapse something totally different. That's why I keep telling you that there's no debate that's finished, because some of the original discoveries were based on fear, were based on Saturnian principles of keeping the mass consciousness locked into cycles of fear and being made small, and, you know, nihilism and all types of stupidness, right? But once we ascend and we are at a higher level of awareness, we can look at the very same thing and we will collapse different forms. Okay? So that's how it works, basically. Yeah? Awareness, perception, beliefs. Okay? We'll talk about beliefs later on. That's a bit of a heavy one, actually, but it's really, really interesting. So, yeah, enjoy this for now. When I speak of the collective, it can get a little bit complicated. I'm trying my best to really explain it. It's like this. So think of it this way. From an individual point of view, yeah, what you believe affects your perception. We know that, yeah. What you look at affects what you see, yeah, which is also affected by the very same perception. So when you look at your reflection in the mirror, which is just full of matrix code, infinite potential, yeah, you're able to collapse it into a physical thought form based on your beliefs and, you know, by extension, your perception. Are you with me so far? So that means that we can extend this to a mass, to a collective, which means that what a collective group believes, and by extension, their perception, affects what they collectively collapse in the quantum field to make real. This is why the media does such a, it's like there are systems in place that are constantly trying to get you to believe certain things. They want you to believe this. They want you to believe that this person's powerful. They want you to believe that this person's a billionaire. They want you to believe that this person's sexy. They want you to believe that this person's the most beautiful. Blah, blah, blah. All of that's crap. Because by you believing it, if enough people start to believe that, what happens? It affects their perception, yeah, which affects what they're able to collapse in the quantum field and make real. Does that make sense? Because it can be said that when two people, have the same kind of beliefs or similar beliefs, which affects their perception, they're able to collapse the code, and get the same results. Just like what happened with the mice, just like what happened with Isaac Newton and Leibniz, just like what happened with Bell and Gray. This is why I keep telling you, fucking turn off social media and fucking turn off the news. They're fucking with your minds, bro. Okay. Oh, just carry on, bro. Yeah, I don't care. So, multiple scientists discovering the same thing at the same time is one clear example, because it just basically confirms that ideas can be pulled from the shared field, rather than found in isolation, because the quantum field is our joint reflection, Okay. So discovery and creation is literally a feedback loop, So science uncovers the patterns, but the patterns themselves respond to the observer, which basically reinforces the idea that consciousness influences what is revealed. Just like I explained, right? So basically what you believe, which affects your perception, affects what you're able to collapse using the observer effect. Okay? Cool. So the deeper we investigate, the more layers kind of reveal themselves. But here's the deeper question and the profound question that I implore people to actually think about, because are we simply finding, or are we also generating new structures by engaging with the reality in new ways? Because this is where the analogy of my son playing with his toy car fits perfectly. Because think about it. The toy car is pre-existing, but his interaction with it is what creates an imagined world. But say he's at the level of awareness of a 1-year-old. The imagined world that he creates is different. When he turns 2, the imagined world he creates is different. When he turns 3, the imagined world he creates is different. When he turns 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, the imagined world he creates to interact with the pre-existent thing changes, which means that when they say the debate is settled, and I tell you it's crap, because no debate can ever be settled, right? Because say we've looked in a quantum field, we've collapsed a thought form and pulled out like a telephone, but say from a perspective of higher awareness, right, which means that our beliefs and our perceptions have changed. That means that we can look at the very same thing, the same code in the same place, but we will collapse something totally different. Do you understand? It's the same as you looking in the mirror. But if you have an increased sense of awareness, rather than focusing on, I've got this on my face, but once you kind of like go past all of that, you look, 1 second, what's this, piss off. I hate when people send me stupid messages like that. Well, especially when I'm mid-flow. Anyway, so, what was I? It just threw me off. I shouldn't have bothered. Yeah, so it's like, you're looking in the mirror, but when you are operating from a low state of awareness, you're only going to see me, flesh-based, but with a higher state of awareness, you will see more, you will appreciate more, and you will collapse a different thought form. So the same applies to what we actually take out of the quantum field in terms of what we actually discover, the patterns we recognize, the observations, and the kind of like underlying language that we decipher. So that's how co-creation works. So we are both the architect and the observer. We are the reflected image on the mirror, which is the quantum field. The matrix code itself is us, and we're the very same observer of the matrix code. But then again, the fact that we observe in the matrix code affects how it behaves with us. The particle wave duality thing, is one clear example. And this is all because of our levels of awareness. So if we increase our levels of awareness, we will discover more things and we'll create more fucking amazing things. If we keep our levels of awareness low, we're just going to be building fucking sex dolls and sex toys and dildos and stupidness and shit like that.